Welcome to Greige Against the Machine, the podcast where we celebrate the extraordinary talent and accomplishments of lesser-known and even unknown artists and creatives. I'm Lisa Katara alongside Justin Harvey, and each week we'll explore the minds and stories of the journeymen and women behind your favorite films, shows, ads, music, and more. Those who craft magic without the red carpet spotlight or public eye, because everyone has a unique story to tell, and sometimes the most inspiring voices are the ones you haven't heard yet.
Welcome. Oh, look at you with the coffee mug and every product placement. See, that is a perfect spokesperson that naturally integrates products into the stream of things. Welcome, everybody. It's Greige Against the Machine.
Hi.
I'm Justin. That's Lisa.
It is all day long. How are you doing out there? It's the day before Mother's Day. I assume that you and your mama.
I did Mother's Day today. Actually, I came from the dinner at my mother's church, and then I tried to get tires installed, which failed. But the Mother's Day part was not a fail. So we'll go with that part of the day.
It's a win.
Yes, it was a win. My stepsister was there. My mother's goddaughter was there. My stepsister's grandkids didn't come. I was hoping to see them, but other than that, it was awesome.
Well, then we'll start off the Mother's Day show by saying Happy Mother's Day to my mom.
Happy Mother's Day.
Because I know she'd appreciate that. I don't get to see her. And Happy Mother's Day to your mama too, because she gave me you.
Yes, which we love. We love the mothers. Hey, Lisa, you know what's cool about today and our guest today?
Yes.
He's our second Thanos.
Oh my God. Are we going back to
We've
Thanos?
had two. Yes. We've had Fan-I on this show now.
We have Fan-I.
Fan-I? Can I say that? Is that a thing?
I'll ask him. So Danny Fehsenfeld, my dear friend, is an award-winning vocalist on top of being a phenomenal actor. You've seen his work. He's been on television. He's been in tons of commercials. The guy just books. I know he's a trained vocalist like I was, only Danny's voice, I swear, can cure cancer. It is so lyrical and so beautiful. And he made me cry during COVID, and I've never forgiven him.
See, I've never heard Danny sing, or maybe I haven't, don't know it. But I mean, like, look, you've seen his face. Like, you see this face here, you know this guy. And all his work, and also you've heard him more times than you know because of his voiceover work, which we'll talk to him about.
With award-winning singers as
but
well. So
I want to hear him. I want to hear him sing because I bet he can do all the harmony parts.
Don't put him on the spot.
He's one of those harmony guys. I guarantee it. Like, he can hit all the fits and stuff. Like,
Well, bring him in, and we'll introduce him to the world. And
we should do that.
Brag on him.
I'll say hi to Danny Fehsenfeld. How's it going, Danny?
Hey, thanks for having me.
You bet. How hot is it in LA right now?
We are having some strange heat wave. I don't know, like May is trying to introduce us to October. It's like 9,900 degrees out here.
Oh, Jesus. Although I miss being able to complain about that.
Yeah. Blue skies, though, it never rains. We don't get thunderstorms, you know.
Well, I mean, that is kind of beautiful here. Although the thunderstorms are not the like soothing kind I remember from Cleveland. They're like raging, mad, angry storms.
Yeah. I was just filming in Texas last week, and like what they call a short rain shower to me is like, I don't know, stepping into the thunderous domes of hell. It's
terror. It's terrorizing.
Well, don't come here to Cleveland because it was frost last night. It'll be 80 degrees by the end of the week, and there'll be all sorts of thunderstorms and flooding in between. It's terrible. It's the second worst weather city in the country next to Buffalo.
I made the determination I don't want to live where it's cold anymore, so it's all yours, Justin.
I did that too.
I miss LA also. I miss LA, but I'm here with my mom for a while, and it's worth it. You know, family is the one thing that's more important than good weather.
Yeah, but, and on Mother's Day weekend,
got to be perfect for Mother's Day.
Mr.
Fehsenfeld, I have a question. Did we meet through our agent back in LA, or did we meet at an event? I can't remember. I just remember. I feel like I've always.
We shot a job together.
Which one?
Was a commercial where you played an EMT. And I was the guy in the car who was stranded on the road. I'm trying to remember. It was for like a GPS system.
Yes. Oh my God.
It's OnStar.
OnStar Systems.
Yeah. We were shooting. Well, I shot for them up in Mammoth. I don't know where I shot with you at. It might have been back in LA, but yeah.
How awesome. This is why I love our industry. So we're thrown together into these instant film families on a set. We get to know each other relatively well for like a short amount of time, crank out some beautiful magic, and then years can go by and we never see each other again.
Yeah.
How phenomenal. Well, lucky me.
It's like the 6 degrees of separation phenomena.
Are you a degree of separation from Kevin Bacon?
I'm within 2.
I'm within 2.
Are you? Yeah. I don't know if it's 1 or 2 at this point, but I know definitely within 2. Yeah.
Lucky
I'm
Kevin.
within 3, and I'm the non-actory one.
Oh yeah.
From the one movie I was in or whatever, I'm like 3 or 4, and it's.
Oh, I thought you were gonna say like I knew a girl that worked at a grocery store where he shops.
No, that would have been great. No.
It was Erewhon circa 2017.
No one goes to Erewhon, just influencers. That place is ridiculous. And
I have
not no one.
Erewhon is crazy. No, my separation is easy because of I was in Trancers Part 6, which is one of the worst films ever made, and hilarious. It's really bad. It's a full moon movie with Tim Thomerson doing a brief cameo, even though he starred in the first 5. He's not even really in this one, but he's in it briefly enough, which connects me back to Helen Hunt, who was in the first one. And then life gets easy from there. But
I mean, I've starred in projects with like Tom Sizemore and Ed Asner and more recently like Stephen Baldwin and people like that. And so I'm assuming, I haven't traced it, I'm probably within 1. But
I'm guessing. And lucky him, really.
And I worked with Eric Roberts, which, most of the universe.
Who hasn't? Eric was in one of the first movies I ever did. He's a lovely guy.
Yeah. The second Kevin Bacon did that JFK movie, that made it ridiculously easy. Yeah. I mean, there's 7,000 names in that movie.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of a little trajectory, Daniel, how did you? It was music first, and you migrated to television film. What was that? When did that begin?
No one calls me Daniel except my mother.
Danny.
I thought you were in trouble, Danny.
I'll let you get away with it. I actually started, I grew up very differently than most people. My father was a public speaker within the ideological communities. So I was born on bus and truck tours. I was traveling from the moment I came out of my mother's womb for 10 months out of the year for 16 years, all over the country. I'm one of 7 kids, and each one of us was born in a different state. Now I have 29 nieces and nephews, and we're spread out all over the world, including Europe, Middle East. Some of them have migrated back, but we've been all over.
Amazing.
And so I was surrounded by music because part of the entourage of what my father did was having musicians, singers, and such around. And but I was a pretty shy kid. I was expressive. I was loud. I was very creative and colorful, but I kind of hid from the spotlight. And my father passed away when I was 16, and I went off the road, stopped traveling. And my first time going to regular school, I was a senior in high school in Michigan. And I joined a rock band and joined choir and did a musical and played and that sort of thing. And I got offered a couple scholarships, and I ended up doing a full music scholarship to a private school in Virginia. And in my junior year, I was dating a girl, and she said, "Hey, you're kind of a lost child. You are a speech communications major. You're doing drama. You're doing plays. You're doing musicals. You travel with a singing group that represents the school on the weekend. But you grew up in kind of a bubble, and now you're living in another bubble, and you don't know who you are, what you're doing." And I was like, "You're probably right." And so I migrated to Los Angeles, California, and signed with the Daniel Hoff agency within 2 months of being here, booked 2 jobs off the bat, and thought, this is a piece of cake. And then I did
so easy
for 4 years.
Well, also, aren't you're the longest client with the Hoff agency, haven't you?
We believe so, yeah. We traced it. I signed with them a long time ago.
That says a lot.
Won't say when.
Doesn't matter. What is time in LA? Not even. So wait, what year was it that you started working in television and film?
Just date me right off the bat.
No. There's a window there where we can like shrink it like an accordion. Don't worry.
No, I don't brag nothing to hide. I started in 1994. And then those are the first couple jobs I booked. I joined SAG in 1996, and then there was a lull. And I would say I really hit my stride because of some things that I learned both in business acumen and also in manifestation that really caused the trajectory of my career to take off about 14 years ago, and it has never gone back.
Amazing. You mentioned manifestation, that whole like envisioning the direction that you want to go in, and the positive visualization that comes with it to, it's basically limitlessness that you have to kind of create for yourself. Do you have things, I hate to call them tricks of the trade. They're not. It's a very selective thing. Some people don't have this ability, but I kind of know you to be a fellow empath. So I know that for you, it's, it's special.
It's we could do like several podcasts about it just to unpack it all. But if I were to synopsize it into a paragraph, I would say there's a lot of methodologies that people are teaching by trying to get people to understand or latch onto that arena. If you were to take away the monetization that most of those people are applying to their methodologies, you would find that a lot of it falls flat. It's kind of like people step into all sorts of entry-level understandings of love or faith or success of any sort, and then they want to become famous or be liked. And I think it does a great disservice. The way in which I would synopsize it is there are laws of the universe, like gravity or aerodynamics. And when you function with them, they work with consistency. And manifestation is actually just accessing certain laws of the universe that function with consistency. And when you participate with them, which is a moment by moment choice, things go in accordance to how things are moving. And when you confront them or oppose them because of trained narratives and perceptions in your psyche, it's going to affect
self-limiting belief systems and whatnot, blockages that we put. Yeah. You're speaking my language right now, by the way. We haven't touched on this, but like this is where I live. Transcendental meditation and that positive affirmation and removing roadblocks and things. A little hypocritical now because I'm kind of stuck in my own way, but talking about it also opens up that channel because I think that everything has a natural vibration, and when it matches, the doors open.
Sure.
I think our job is to find where we're the most comfortable, where we can be ourselves, and the authenticity will carry us through.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I would, but the first thing that took off for me was commercials. And I always tell people that are trying to get in the industry, access commercials first. It may not be why you got into the business, but it's really the most accessible key to turn. And so I really leaned into that. And at first I would book, a certain amount of commercials a year, like most people do. But when I started applying what I started to understand about a manifestation about 14 years ago, without going too deep into it, things began to explode. And I have shot about 400 campaigns, been the spokesman for a lot of brands, both on and off camera. Comedy is my shtick, and so I always incorporate comedy into even some of the serious things that I do, and it seems to be something that's helpful even for the serious nature of some of the brands that I've been spokesperson for. And then from commercials, I thought, okay, now that I have that machine oiled, let me take on a new monster. And so I took on voiceover. I got into voiceover maybe a couple years after that. And
did you find that was kind of a natural progression for you? Because I find like as a singer, a lot of voiceover is very easy for me. There's a music to everything.
Yeah, in fact, I designed a couple courses that I teach at Voice Masters on Zoom globally called Singing for Animation, because one of the things that we noticed is that a lot of people that do particularly well in animation, but voiceover in general, have a musical background. And without going too deep into that, I'll just give you one word: timing. When you understand timing and you're in tune with timing, it will apply itself in everything you do artistically and in life in general. True. So I teach that through my courses. Singing was obviously a background for me. I was already an accomplished singer, having sung on recordings and live performances with a lot of people, doing musical theater as well, and also being a music director. And one of the things that would show up a lot when I was doing commercial work was people would come to me and say, hey, we really like your voice. Could you record this for us as part of our brand off camera as well? Other people would come to me and say, hey, we really think you could do these characters. Could you voice these in these video games? And so I would do that, but I never did a demo. I never got a voiceover agent. I stayed away from that. And I was dating a girl a number of years ago around this time, and she came to me and she said, you really should get into voiceover. And I had bought the lie that a lot of people have bought, that it's harder to get into voiceover than it is into film and television, or equally as hard. So why do it if you want to be a film and television?
I found it harder, for sure.
Yeah. So a lot of people say this. And once you lock into that perception, it gives you lack of motivation to chase it, to pursue it. And I was actually coaching somebody yesterday, and I said, hey, first of all, don't buy that lie. But second of all, don't do things that you don't love. Do this because you love it.
Say that again.
Because you love it. Success is a byproduct, but not the reason why you're doing it. It will come, but it won't matter anyway because you're doing it because you love it. right?
Yeah.
And so this girl that I was dating had a dream, and in the dream I was playing the piano, which I do, and I was singing, and the piano rolled down a hill in her dream and it crashed into a tree. And so without confronting me about it, she took it to a dream interpreter. I don't know who it was. And the dream interpreter said, oh, his money's in his voice. And when I looked back on my life, every success in my life, on or off camera, had come through my voice.
Yeah.
Now, at the
Speaking.
time, I would have thought that just means, oh, I have a good voice for this. I'm a good singer, or I have a good speaking voice, or whatever. What I didn't understand until I created courses was that eyes are the window to the soul, but the voice is the revealer of all that we are. And so she was saying more than just his voice. She was saying his sound is something that is transcending through everything he does. And so I cut the demo, long story short, signed with innovative artists and began booking jobs, but it wasn't like massive success all at the start. I had to show up, drive to Santa Monica, go to booths pre-COVID, create my own booth mid-COVID, learn to edit and do all the things that the booth directors used to do at Innovative. I had to do the work.
Yeah.
And I show up and most people quit, which is what I always do. And what ended up happening was I hit my stride about 5 years ago. And in the last 5 years, after putting in 5 years of hard work, I starred in 2 #1 movies in the world, that coveted slot on Netflix, that #1 of all things on Netflix twice in a matter of 2 years.
Amazing.
I voiced projects that won the Oscar, the BAFTA, the Golden Globe, and last year I voiced Thanos for What If.
Justin.
Won the
Told ya.
nominated me for Best Video Game Voice for the Sovas Awards.
I
and
remember
the
this.
overall body of work of everything that I've done in voiceover got nominated for Sovas's highest prize body of work,
Amazing.
basically Best Voiceover Artist.
It's a culmination of all that effort, all that extra work that you put in, the focus that you have.
Who gets an award for like getting nominated for your whole body of work? That's like
Daniel
that's the
Fehsenfeld.
goal. I mean, but that honestly, that is the goal. It's like, yes, you get an award for a thing. Like I got an Emmy nomination for one thing, but man, I would kill to have somebody say, "Holy crap! Look at the whole thing that this guy's done." That's really impressive to me.
Thank you.
And I love that you've kind of elevated where your dad was at, going around the country speaking, and now you've taken it and personalized it and modernized it as well. It sounds like, because I'm sure the world is a completely different place than when you were living on the road 10 months of the year. Oh, yeah. But how do you find it speaking to this next generation? How do you find it leaving the path paved for the next generation after you? Are you finding that difficult to do, or are you finding it easy? What does the next generation have in store that you are setting forth for them, and how hard or easy of a time are you having laying that path?
There's so many directions I could go with that in my mind, but I'll go with what's coming to me. I remember, and this is no knock on politics, because I voted for my dog in the last 2 elections, and not to protest, but genuinely because I wanted to vote my conscience, because he was the most loving, honest, truthful being that I knew, and I wanted to put my energy behind that. So politics aside, I remember President Biden giving a speech within his last year of being president, and within the context of whatever that speech was about, he said the greatest threat to America is MAGA. Or the greatest threat to democracy is MAGA.
Democracy,
And that statement I took aside and went, well, that's just not an honest statement. No knock on Biden, not political. It's just not an honest statement. I thought in my mind, the greatest threat to democracy is actually entitlement. When you believe as an individual, wherever you are in the world, that you are entitled to anything simply by existing, you have esteemed yourself above the truth. What we have to be careful of in America and in the world is believing that simply because we exist, we deserve anything we want. What we deserve is love. What we deserve is the truth. The truth is love, and love is the truth. They're inseparable. And so one of the things that I'm hopeful to impart regularly to people, whether I'm speaking, interpersonally communicating, or creating or dispersing art, is that what we need to refocus ourselves on is several things. Number one, introspection, meaning the ability to travel inside ourselves and know our whys that apply to our whats. I heard a wise man say once, you're not entitled to an opinion. You get to earn one, right? And I think these days too often we're entitled to think that just because we have a perspective that we're entitled to that perspective. No, should be inviting challenge of that perspective.
Yes, thank you.
Learn more. Oh, how can I raise my perception to the next highest perception? Because here's the thing.
Without it, there's no growth.
Perception is always expanding.
Yes.
You're never arriving. Truth is expansive, just like the multiverse is expanding in all directions in love, right? So if you're not growing like the multiverses are, you've locked yourself into some level of dishonesty and lack of growth.
Right. And suffering by that means too.
Sure. And secondly, concrete thinking, the ability to assess information on the external. And third, personal responsibility. Those three things, any one of them when they're removed, always precede the downfall of any empire.
Yeah.
Right? And America has lost all three. We've lost introspection, we've lost concrete thinking, and we've lost personal responsibility. And if we can even heal one of those in an individual's life, myself included at all times, needs to have to face that. What do I think about that? Is that my opinion or my parents' or false history's opinion or ideological opinion? Is that mine?
So you're holding on to my soul right now. Yeah. So I felt like for a while I was the only one that whenever there is some kind of adversity or whenever there's some kind of thing that makes me feel uncomfortable or stifled or silenced, I always question my own involvement in it and what my self-limiting belief system is. And the thing that drives me crazy is the more that we talk about these things, when we do have these conversations and we hold these spaces for growth and health and happiness, almost emphatically, the people that need to hear it can't. They're too afraid. It's too uncomfortable. And I'm trying to find in my own way how to authentically be that thing that allows them the space to bring wherever they're at, to bring it so we can have an honest discussion for understanding, not to change their mind, not to change my mind, just to understand one another. I think you're right. I think that introspection is huge, but we can't make people comfortable enough to explore it. That's what art is for.
We talk about creativity, but the multiverses are creating at all times, right? They're always creating. And creativity is too often limited to the arts. But making a good ice cream sundae or delivering a piece of mail or cutting a good business deal, those are all forms of creativity. Everything we do is creativity.
Right.
We are creatives, right?
Yeah.
So I think, like, to tag on to what you were saying, like, one of the great arts that we have lost is the art or creative outlet of communication. Yeah. That is an art form. And when we start cutting ourselves off from each other in conversation because we want to hold an opinion over someone, we've limited our creative expansion, and it also is going to reflect in all forms of art.
Yes. If there is a religion, this is my religion. I don't know what I call it, but yes.
I agree. And the way I've always looked at it, Danny, especially when it comes to creativity, is that everything in the universe is naturally entropic. Everything is tending to dissolve in some fashion or erode. And the only way to stop erosion is creation, period. Sure. Whether it's two stars colliding and creating something else, but there has to be a force, a gravity, a willpower, something positively moving forward with the purpose of creation, for good or bad. But that is the only way to defeat entropy. Mm-hmm. And so we have this natural desire to be creative because of that, because we want to fight the world and the universe falling apart. Mm-hmm. So to me, that, as Lisa says, that is the religion. Creativity is the religion. We have to create to survive, to thrive, to exist, to not entropically dissolve into dust. And what I love talking about here is trying to figure out, okay, well, what is the next path for doing that creation, for making that thing exist that we all love? And where is the passion at from the regular people, from not the Brad Pitts, from not the 1% at the top, as Lisa loves to say, like, this is it. I mean, I think what you have to offer is so important for so many of us, and we need to keep hearing it. I don't care if you've heard it before or you have your own version of it. Let's keep having this conversation of how do we create? How do we do the next thing? What are the philosophies behind it? Because it's more than just doing the work. We have to understand what the feeling and the purpose behind this molding, this creation, this gravity, this bringing things together by force or by will or by thought. And because if we don't understand it, I think we lose touch with it. We can't let the robots do it. As much as the robots might make it cheaper or easier, we can't let
Faster,
the robots
cheaper,
do it.
more productive.
Because,
I don't know why we're in such a hurry.
The addendum I would add to that is there's a quote that's been phrased numerous different ways over the years, and it's falsely attributed to the Dalai Lama because he tweeted it one day. It's actually not his words; it's from much older. But it basically, in its simplest form, says, "Replace judgment with curiosity." And when we do that with one another, instead of holding our perspectives or our beliefs or our opinions over one another, we actually approach each other with, what can I learn from you?
Yeah.
I would want to be wrong because maybe you're taking me to the next highest plateau. But if not, maybe there's something I can offer you that'll help expand you in creativity and faith and in love.
Yes.
And I think when we live that way, it shows up in our art as well, right? So, there's like in a lot of improv schools, they'll teach the yes and. Like if you hit someone with a no, you've shut off where you can explore each other with each other in dialogue or a scene. The yes and then becomes the way in which you approach everything. Instead of being the outside voice that's judging your audition or, whatever, your song or whatever it is, you're looking at it. Like I teach my students when they are in my classes, if you have a voice crack, or you go to a pitch that you didn't mean to, or you make a sound you didn't plan on, or you're not sure what to do, utilize that.
Yeah.
Instead of seeing that as an imperfection that someone would slam you on the wrist in fine arts school, which is a wrong approach, utilize that as, how can I play this into a character? Because this is different.
Right. Yeah.
It's replacing judgment with curiosity.
So it's the curiosity that children have before we tell them how to feel about the things that they're witnessing and exploring. Sure. And I find it and I know I'm not the only one. Things like, I know using rational thinking to understand irrational behavior is asinine because it makes you crazy, but I look at things like racism, ageism, sexism, and the ism confounds me because like a child with a Christmas toy, I see something I've never seen before or heard before or a new perspective, and I immediately get curious and excited to learn more about it, and I welcome it in. And other people are like, no, change is bad. I'm like, what's wrong with evolution?
Well, true alchemy is the mastery of oneself. The mastery of oneself is the mastery of one's emotions. And so one of the scariest things to do is to step on your own and have to manage yourself.
Yes, sir.
So the less people do that, the more they look for a leader. And when you look for a leader, then you create all of the categories. That's where tribalism comes from, right? So whether it's race or religion or gender or any of the categories you can think of around the world throughout the ages, it's a means by which people can find a group to belong so that they don't have to manage themselves. And so I always say to people, religion, which I came out of, and I have, wonderful family and friends who are heavily involved, and some of them are incredibly loving and some of them are incredibly judgmental depending on what path they took for themselves. But what I always say is, religion is the most constructive and destructive thing on the planet, because as much as it unifies, it equally separates.
Right.
And so what we have to be careful about is, I think it goes back to the things that I said before about introspection, concrete thinking, and personal responsibility. When you function within those three, let's call them concepts or categories, you have to manage yourself. And then you're not responsible for anyone but yourself, and you have no one to blame except yourself. I don't have to be upset at you because you say something that I don't like or you do something that I don't like, right?
Why are you receiving it that way? And what's the work to be done?
Because now I can approach it with curiosity.
Yes.
Right?
I never want to stop growing, because I feel like at the end of the day, when you stop growing and expanding your consciousness, you're essentially waiting to die. And I love life and the differences and the nuances too much. This is so refreshing. In that, though, a lot of that has to do with those self-limiting beliefs. What we're taught as children that identify as, like, someone told you you're fat, and then for the rest of your life you think you're fat. You're always trying to unwind that. A lot of it has to do with healing some of the things that we learn as children so that we can be open-minded, including, like, I work with women a lot because I had to go through this where I was such a tomboy and I didn't understand that being pretty was like a cool thing. It was always just so painful to me to get that kind of attention. I had to work through compliments, accepting compliments. And now I give them lavishly. Now I'm like, I say something to a woman just at random. She goes, oh, no, you are. I'm like, don't do that. Don't you dare deflect my joy at giving you this compliment because I see you.
Third eye. Yeah, I was having a conversation with a casting director on IG before I jumped on here, and we were talking about a different concept, but I brought this up in a voice note that I left her because it came to me, and I'll say it here now. Yeshua, who I believe was a black man from Africa that became white Jesus, okay?
That guy.
It was quoted in numerous forms of the New Testament, whether you deal with the original 140-some books or the 73-book Bible of the Catholic Church and the Episcopalian Church, or the 66-book Bible of the Protestant Church. Jesus, or Yeshua, is quoted as saying, don't harm a hair on the head of a child, because it would be better instead that a weight was hung around your neck and you were dragged in the ocean than to do so. Okay? And now that we understand the importance of developmental years and how that shows up, not just in the subconscious and the psychology of adults, but it's actually trapped energy within the body, especially within the muscles.
Yes.
And it creates
subconsciously.
Creates disease, creates all sorts of problems. There is a way to unravel that. I had to learn to unravel generalized anxiety, and some people have to learn to unravel depression and other sorts of things that are preventing them from living the fullest, happiest life that they can. And the general pathway, without going down it and for matter of time, is you have to reprogram the subconscious mind.
Yes. Yeah.
Which is not always easy.
There. For many, many years, I lived there following 9/11 and through Hollywood and some of the things I've gone through. That rewiring or reviewing, remote viewing, transcendental meditation, theta healing, where you basically sit with your child version of yourself in meditation and you become the thing that was missing. If it was the parent to that 5-year-old version or 14-year-old version of yourself, and you heal those things and you let them go, like literally just let them go. It is so freeing in so many ways.
I have a friend, my friend David Briselli, created this thing called TRE, trauma release.
Trauma release.
Yeah. And he's trained, I think, close to 100 practitioners globally. And,
nice.
What he discovered, he worked with Mother Teresa for like 9 years. And what he
I'm
discovered.
sorry. Like, I had nothing. Mother Teresa.
Nothing major.
If anyone listening can go on to Google or to YouTube and look at that
Terry. Terry. Yeah.
Terry?
Mother Terry, yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean, everybody knows.
Energy is trapped in the muscles. And when you learn to release that energy, your body will get rid of a lot of tension and a lot of musculoskeletal issues.
Yeah, it's true. It creates, like you said, disease, dis-ease, discomfort, discourse. Yeah.
Justin, you thought you were going to jump on and talk with an artist about artistry.
Oh no. I
see,
the funny thing is, the funny thing is, Danny, you did this episode what I normally do to people, where I get it all deep and philosophical. That's why I'm just shutting up. I'm like, oh, Danny's got this covered. Like, I do have an interesting question though, related back to the voice thing. So, I'm curious to know where people can bridge the gap into voice work. Like, I've done some voice related stuff. Like, I've done my own voice work when I was at NFL and. The Sundays games, blah, 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 that kind of stuff. And I've done some radio stuff too. But how do you take the next step these days in the modern world where, I know a lot of voiceover people are recording at home? Is it the whisper room? Is it the learning the software? Do you buy the nice Neumann microphone and do it yourself? Or do you still try to get represented? Do you still, do you cut the demo reels? Where's the entry point with the current technological state that we're in for voice work. Because for acting, yeah, people know the route now. You self-tape, you do stuff at home, but you sign up on all the websites, you submit stuff, you still try to get an agent. Like, there's more of an understanding of what the path is, but I think technology has made it a little trickier in any of the recorded forms. So where do you think the path, the on-ramp is now with this technological state that we live in?
Well, I think if you ask that question towards any genre of the industry and someone claims to have the full answer, they're not being completely transparent, right?
Sure.
But I would say, because you asked a little bit more of a technical question, when it comes to, in my opinion, becoming more successful in voiceover, it's not dissimilar to being more successful in any part of the industry. The industry is ever evolving and changing. You know, it's kind of like when SAG was doing the renegotiations this last year, and I said, well, this is a disaster, not because some of the things they're asking for aren't important, but because contracts can never keep up with the speed of innovation.
Fact.
Right? So no matter what they negotiate, by the time they have it solidified, innovation is already ahead, and it's kind of a moot point, which is what we're seeing, right? As technology and innovation advanced, the marketplace became a globally accessible market, where before you'd have to be in certain cities and you have to have agents and you have to get auditions and go through that whole rigmarole. And you might get, let's say, a film and television or a voiceover audition back in the day, and there might be 50 or 100 people vying for your role. Now it's thousands, right?
Right.
And you don't even know if they're being watched or listened to sometimes.
Right.
And there's no way of verifying that really either, right? The advantage is that you can put your voice out there into any number of databanks, websites, social media, etc. And through the power of social media, you can access things that were never accessible before. You can also make films and animation films on your cell phone, and now even through AI online. It's quite terrifying. So having said that, there's any number of means to access it, but there's still the traditional route, R-O-U-T-E, however you want to pronounce that, is to have a solid demo within the genre that you want to really attack, whether that be animation or commercial voiceover or promo or narration or whatever it is. And you can have any number of those demos, but they require investment, they require training. And then as far as where you take that demo, I always recommend that you leverage your relationships to access the best representation that you can. In any business, the leverage of relationship takes you much further than cold calling. Secondly, I strongly recommend that you you have a good mic. You don't need one that's more than, especially if you're starting out, that's more than $500. You can have a good USB mic for even $200 or $300 that plugs right into your Mac. But more important than your mic is getting rid of room tone.
Yeah.
Depending on where you live, I live next to a lot of traffic noise. I have to have a booth. But even some of the best booths, depending on where you live, cannot get rid of a lawnmower or a plane or any of those sorts of things.
I literally just muted my microphone 2 minutes ago because there was a lawnmower next door.
Yeah, you're not going to be able to get rid of that. But general room tone, if you can't get rid of all of it unless you build like a steel building with like crazy amounts of padding. You're going to have something, but you can reduce it. It's called the sound floor. You can reduce the sound floor down really low, and it's good enough for auditioning. I recorded Thanos out of my booth for What If. Lucas Sound was tapped into my laptop from 2 different locations.
So awesome.
So cool.
And I didn't have to leave my house.
That's great.
See, I find that fascinating because my degree is in audio engineering. So that's that kind of stuff is so cool to me. Like Capitol Records still has these plate reverbs down in the basement, and you can somehow call them up through ISDN lines and send sounds there that come back to whatever recording studio you're in to get
Nuts.
the reverb that's
Yeah.
sitting in the basement of Capitol Records building. Like,
So dope.
still to this day, even with all the technology we have, the fact that you can use that same reverb that Elvis used,
Yeah.
if you want to, at your studio, to me, it's just that I love that stuff about technology.
That's
where
what I
we
love
should be
about
using it.
Hollywood. You can do that. You can stand in the place where people before you have stood.
But it's useless if you don't have the voice of an angel like Danny.
Like
so,
Danny.
Danny, okay, so I want to know, like, our power aside and these other things aside, where can somebody actually hear? I'm not going to make you sing, but where can somebody actually hear you? Oh my God!
Please do.
Okay,
I'm going to mute my microphone.
So here's one of the things that I teach. Right? Let me think of a song. I don't know why a Christmas song is coming to my head right now, but that's what. Let's take a song like "Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas." Right? If it were in my voice, singing in one of many styles, I might go, "Have yourself a merry little Christmas. Let your heart be light." Right? But if you were singing a character, that's a whole different thing. So let's take a character like Corp that I played for in a movie called Latte and the Magic Waterstone. He's a crazy old maniacal bird. And he talks like, "When spring stops flow and water is low and fearful days draw near." How would he sing? Okay, same song. "Have yourself a merry little Christmas. Let your heart be light." Okay.
So much fun.
So singing versus singing in character are two different things.
Yeah.
And what you discover when you get into animation is Pixar, Disney, and DreamWorks do a whole heck of a lot of characters who sing. But you know who else does? Is Nickelodeon, because they have a lot of shows. Children.
Yeah. This is what I wanted to do when I got to Hollywood. I thought, coming off from Eastman and Broadway, I was like, I need to get into voice. I want to be creatures and characters and children, and I want to sing.
Yeah.
Didn't work.
Why are you doing it?
Because I got waylaid by a fairly successful acting career, and then the writer's strike hit, and I went into stunts. But it's not out of me. I mean, every day, and that's why during COVID, when I heard you were at the piano, and God help me, I can't remember what it was you put out for us to see on social media. Just instant tears. The tone was so. I think that's when I asked you, "Are you Broadway trained?" You're like, duh. Like, where have you been? I had no idea. You're from my planet. But it got me because it had been so long since 9/11 when I stopped singing, and then I got out to LA, and other things came in, and you miss it. The music, you cannot get rid of it if it's inside of you. It never abates.
Well, music is the this is what I say. Music, in my opinion, is the universal language because it transcends all languages and all forms of communication, diction, dialect. Right? People speak Bach, for instance, within every nation if they hear it.
Yeah.
Right?
I'm more Shostakovich than Bach, but yeah. To be honest.
That's because we're made of sound.
Yes, vibration. That's what I mean. When you meet your vibration, you feel like you expand, like anything's possible. You know when the energy in the room is off because you're like, but when it's flowing, my God, it's amazing.
Well, everything is waveforms. I mean, light is waveforms, sound is waveforms. When you touch something, it's waveforms. All your senses are developed through waveforms, and music is the emotional expression of waveforms. So it is one of the universe's natural ways of communicating. You don't think about it, but the rays of sunlight that you see every day are another song.
Music.
It's another waveform hitting your body and radiating vitamins, literally. Like, think about that. Something out there in the distant is radiating waveforms to you that are giving you vitamins.
Oh, I'm so excited
that's an amazing delivery system. Let's
this
just say.
conversation is long overdue for me. I have no one to talk to about this stuff here.
Well, and that's one of the things I've always loved about music. I mean, we all kind of got to our different places in the entertainment. Like, I do reality television, but I started off as a musician and an audio engineer and music producer. you know, and Lisa was going to New York to do, you know, Broadway style music and other things. And then, you know, look, the world zigs and zags, and that technology thing derailed my entire music career. As you said, the music industry, people think that the television and film industry is just catching up slowly. They're doing a heck of a lot better job than when Napster kicked my entire career's butt. And, you know, the money went from here to here overnight for all of us in music in the early 2000s.
You couldn't use auto tunes. It was new, and you had to have talent. You had to sing. You know?
When I started was when auto tune was an actual tool, and the first few songs, the song "Miserable" by the band Lit has this auto tuney thing in the chorus. That was an accident that got that assistant engineer fired. And it wasn't a good thing. But now, you know, 2 years after that, T-Pain has made it a thing. And Cher,
I sat in the booth a few times when a popular pop singer was doing a raw track, and we would listen to the raw track, and the engineer would have to fix it.
Yeah.
Holy cow!
I've made that sausage. I have made that sausage, and we used to edit like these brilliant drummers. We would quantize every note that they played because I was doing, you know, rap metal records, and you know, every one of those things, the beat is exactly on there. It's like, why do we have the drummer come here? He's just laying a path for me to basically play the drums in the computer, and I hated that part of it, of the technology taking away some of the art, some of the happy accidents. It's like, you know. Come on, Miles Davis is not, you're not quantizing Miles Davis. It's jazz.
Jazz is something that AI cannot do because it doesn't have emotional background.
Correct.
Jazz is a feeling. It's not.
And this is how we have to be careful. But also, here's the other thing. T-Pain can actually sing. He's not just auto-tune.
Yeah.
So what you have to give kudos to T-Pain for is finding a creativity and an artistic style to using the robot, because that can be done. There are ways to use these tools and create the next level of art. At one point in time, putting the oil on the canvas was just another tool. And somebody was like, no, that's not carving in a rock with another rock. Like at every level of this thing is that, but I feel like we have to reassimilate the technology back into the artist. We have to be the curators. The robots can't be the curators.
I feel like artists.
If we want it to still be art, we have to curate.
I hear what you're saying. You're finding the happy medium between the new and the old.
Well,
I have a question separate from all this. What's with this other Thanos voice? I wasn't aware there was one.
Sorry.
Oh, no, not a voice. Not different guest who
actually Thanos
was actually a physical model and physical in the first one before it got recast.
Because Josh Brolin voiced him in the movie and in the show, and I voiced him.
Correct.
Okay, we're the only.
And this was the actor that Josh
played the suit.
He played he was actually Thanos sitting in the throne in the first one.
Got it.
Before there were, you know, lots of lines and cool stuff.
Got it.
Ooh, way to save the interview there, Justin, because he's about to give us some shit.
You know, no, and it's, you know.
You're our favorite though, Danny.
Oh, thank you.
Thanos for everyone. It is a great part. Like, so we'll ask you the Marvel question.
Yeah.
Thanos doesn't think he's a bad guy.
Yeah.
He really thinks he's doing the universe some good by snapping his finger and taking away half the population of the galaxy. Where do you stand on the principles of Thanos of him not believing that he's a bad guy? Is he a bad guy?
I'm of the belief that in order to play any bad guy, of which I've played a lot of them on and off camera, you can never believe you're a bad guy. Because if you approach playing darkness without understanding light, you're going to have a pretty one-note darkness.
True.
That would be my retort.
It'll be a trope. It was a very safe
I completely agree. No, but it's true. Like, if you want to play something in the world of reality, like you can, if you are maliciously evil, and there is a little bit of actual malicious evil out there, but the reality of it is, most of the real villains of history did not believe they were the bad guy. They thought they were
No.
doing the right thing for somebody.
Yeah.
Maybe not for everybody, but they thought at least for their homies, for their guys, whatever 5 guys Alexander the Great was sitting around with, they all thought he was the good guy.
Yeah.
The little country that got conquered on the way, maybe not so much. Maybe they're like, Alexander,
Well, I mean,
screw
even
you,
think
buddy.
about Yeshua. He's hanging on a cross, and he looks down and he says, Father, forgive them, for they don't know what they're doing. They actually believe they're serving God.
Right.
Ooh, that's deep right now.
Oh,
So if we missed that part of that narrative, you've missed how light and darkness works within all of us. Look at Star Wars. The force within and around you, regardless of who is lassoing it, for darkness or for light, we're equally powerful. But ultimately, the light always shines brightest in the darkness. So the darkness turned to the light, and those that would not face the light dissolved into non-existence.
Right. It's the contrast that makes us see it, recognize it. Yeah, you can't have bad without good and good without bad.
You can be really powerful and be dark or light.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not talking about polarity. I'm talking about...
right.
We know. Yeah. Listen, we can say whatever we want on this show. I haven't rated it. I'm like, we'll go anywhere y'all want to go. As long as it doesn't get me rated or pulled out of my home. I don't care.
Oh, that's a very bizarre time that you have to live through. I'm sorry about that.
It is a weird time. It's a weird time to be a brown, childless, catless woman in the state of Georgia. I'll say that.
Yeah.
Thank God for creativity, though. Thank God for art. I'm grateful. I think, I realize that not everybody's an artist in a creative way, a creative artist. People are creative in lots of ways, my God. But art is something. I was watching somebody online that I've been connected with for a while now. We've been talking about art and what we conceive of as nouveau contemporary art, where people are like whipping sticks of butter at shit and like doing some weird things. And we were talking about the art of creativity, that not everybody has it, but this specific type of creativity is something that people are generally born with, and it can't be assimilated. It can't be synthetically created with AI. It's an organic sort of way of downloading visions and sounds and things. My dad's an architect, creating that 3-dimensional space on a flat piece of paper. Some people see the world a certain way. And I think it's a gift that you can't really instill in people. They can facsimilate it somehow with math, but you won't feel it the same. You won't receive it the same, I think. Same with tonality in a human voice, which is why some voices are just so much more poignant and beautiful and get you, and others are like, okay, that was a tone.
Yeah. I don't think that AI would have ascended to where it is now, nor will it be successful within art if and when humanity returns to knowing who they are as humans. When you don't know who you are, you begin to have identity issues.
Mm-hmm.
When you know who you are, you walk in power.
Yes. So do you feel right now, no, I don't know about you. We're Gen X, Justin and I, almost exactly the same age too. We grew up with a certain idea of what America was and our place in it, and that, land of the free and all the tropes in our history was a certain way. And, we're not white people. And, our city was huge and international, and we were around people of all different walks of life. And we saw the world as infinite possibility. We didn't see all the hate. It was there, but it wasn't prevalent. Where have we been taught to see the differences in each other instead of connectivity and community?
I mean, that's not a small question.
It's not, but you're not a small thinker, so I feel inclined.
Within all of us, no matter who you are, you contain light and darkness. Mm. It's just part of being made of what is. If you look into the heavens, it's dark, and then a light shows up in the morning and brightens your day because you happen to turn in its direction, right? Mm. You're rotating on a planet. And then the Earth continues to rotate and you go back to what it was, which is dark, right? So within the multiverses, you have light and darkness. Light shines within the darkness, but actually the universe is quite black, right? That's the predominant color. And so if you're made of all of what is, if what you see out there is what is inside and what comprises you, then what can turn that light or darkness on in a moment or not is based upon where you place your perception. So it's not that all of a sudden people became hateful or judgmental or canceling or whatever the issues are that have come up.
Yeah.
This is all throughout human history. In fact, we've destroyed ourselves numbers of times, and the planet keeps moving on, right? So it's our choice whether or not we're going to live in judgment or curiosity. Mm-hmm. It's our choice whether or not we will master ourselves. It's our choice whether or not we will walk in love and faith, or we will walk in fear and judgment and control. Fear is in bed with control and judgment. Love is in bed with freedom. And when love sets you free, it sets you free to abide within love. When you live in fear, you must control others. So
Right.
whether you are a president or a dignitary or a billionaire or owner of businesses or head of an entertainment company or whatever you are, if what got you there was fear and insecurity, you will constantly necessitate your role. But if you live within love, you begin to see the lack of necessity for any hierarchical system whatsoever, and you will recognize that you are never needing a savior, you are never needing a leader, and you are never needing to be controlled. And that's my roundabout answer to how we come to solvency within those things.
Which is amazing. And I was going to kind of ask you to sum it up kind of where your ideology took all of this, because we only have a couple minutes left.
Sure.
But instead, I feel like that was a very good kind of conclusive statement. So I will ask you this.
Sure.
Your voice has had many paths. You're just your voice alone. And I think that person that said that was your key is true, because
your message, not just your voice, your voice.
Well, because what it is that's coming from you is that you resonate in general. And that is the purpose of a voice, is to resonate, whether it be musically or lyrically or on the stage. But my question for you, my last question before we get out of here, is which one of these versions of you resonating your voice is the one you like the best? Is it the stage? Is it the screen? Is it the singing? Is it the voice acting?
Oh, easy answer.
And you only got 1 minute for this one. So
easy answer. In order of priority or desire, maybe a better word is desire.
Yeah.
If I could choose to wake up every day and work in collaboration within comedy and in musical,
yes,
that would be the existence that I would choose.
Get him on stage. Get him back on stage. Oh my gosh, Danny. So amazing to hang out with you. We finally have these conversations.
Yeah.
Anytime. This is where I live. So.
And I love it. And hopefully we'll do some roundtable shows down the line with a few people and kind of throw around some ideas and see if we can get heady and blow some people's minds a little bit. So we'd love to have you.
My parting words would be this. Love is the final conclusion of any redeeming story. And when people come to the end of their lives, they never talk about how much wealth or possessions or success they accumulated. They always talk about, I wish I had spent more time with my relationships and with creating as much love within and around me as possible. And so if anyone listening can take anything from what we have said today, it is to love yourself in your entirety, even the things that have been criticized by you or others, and to walk within that space and give that to others as often as you can. That will be your most fulfilling life.
Co-signed.
Amazing. All right. Well, we are out of time on that note. And thank you so much for joining us, Danny Fehsenfeld. We are so happy to have you. You are welcome here anytime, my friend. Until next time, guys. Cheers.